Come on. All right. Good morning, Paul. How's the weather in St. Louis today? Is it hot and steamy or cold and frozen? Because I know there's no in between.
There is no in between. Actually, today might be the in between. I want to say it's like in the 50s, but a few weeks ago it was frigid, and last week I was down in Florida and I think it was 70 degrees up here, but it's kind of in between right now.
Yeah, no, I think fondly back to my Michigan days when you never knew what the weather was going to serve up that day.
Yeah.
I will say it's 50 degrees at my house this morning, so it's a little chilly in Hawaii.
Yeah.
People hate it when I say that, but it's
When
true.
when I look at Hawaii weather, I swear it's and maybe this is fact, like it's always like 10 degrees cooler at night versus the day, and that's where it's very balanced, it seems like.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. I'm not gonna lie. I can't complain. I'll catch the hate. I'm good with it.
Right on.
So 2025 TPA scorecard, right? We've got this is our third round with the TPA scorecard, right?
This is our third round. We did the first in 2020, then we did it again in 2022, and this will be the third time we're sending out the survey, and hopefully going to get a lot of feedback. The more feedback we can get, the more people we can get filling it out, the better data we can get on it.
Whenever we're going out into the marketplace and asking restorers to do something, I always feel like it's important for us to connect the dots and say, hey, like not only like this isn't just some great idea. Well, it is a great idea, but the whole purpose isn't to support a great idea that the RIA had, right? Like we're soliciting this information strategically so then that way we can drive better outcomes. And so like, we've had the experience of having a couple of these surveys already done. What have we done with the results and how are we making the world better for those restoration contractors that are on TPA programs?
Yeah. So I think really just opens up the line of communication between the contractor and the third party administrator. Until like, I guess like the thing is like sometimes, you think communication's happening and in reality it's not. And I think this just provides like one voice to kind of, I guess, bring the third party administrator to the table. Like, hey, this is working well, or this is not working well. Here's where we'd like to see improvement. And so I think that's what we're really trying to get out of it.
So I'll ask a different question. Are TPAs bad or are they good, Paul?
Man, I feel like you're setting me up there. No, I think it depends. Like, they're going to be great for some contractors. They're going to be horrible for other contractors. You have to understand your business, and do an analysis. Does it make sense to work with a third party administrator? Does it not make sense? I actually think that the survey can kind of, for those that aren't doing TPA work, can kind of help you decide, like, is this something that I want to get into? And looking at the data from the survey, and there's a lot of different third party administrators out there. You can look at it, see which one's getting higher scores, see which one's getting lower scores, and then make an educated decision if it's good for your business.
Mm-hmm. And when I've been working with, some of our clients at Pivot, and they've had questions about whether or not becoming a member of a TPA could be beneficial for their business, the scorecard is usually the first place I'll send them, right? I'll be like, okay, if you're seriously considering joining a TPA network, here's an excellent resource where you can take a look at not only the landscape of third-party administrators and just generally understand who's doing what in the marketplace, but also how they're performing with the group of your peers, right? So then that way you can, and we do a pretty good job of breaking down the survey. Why don't you go ahead and give us, like, what are the categories, right? We've got categories that a bunch of questions fall under.
Yeah. That's hopefully I can remember them all. But so I know well, let's see. We've got value. Value is one of them. You know, want to know what you're getting out of your total investment. We're looking at scoring, so that's a big part of third-party administrators, that they've got high standards for their contractors, which I think is a good thing. But you want to have like clarity on your scoring. Like I want to know how I'm getting graded, why I'm getting these grades, and myself, I can be I don't know if perfectionist is the right word, but I like to do well and have good scores. So scoring, other category. The guidelines is another part of it. The claims process, how efficient and fair is the claim being processed? Contractor support, that's a big one. You know, a lot of third-party administrators talk about being a partner, and you know, does it feel like a partnership between the third-party administrator and between the contractor? Credentialing. Claims volume, that's a big one, especially if you're not currently on one and you're thinking about joining it. You know, if I'm just make up a place in the Midwest, and you're looking at joining a TPA, and you see whatever the TPA's name is, and then within that market, there's not a lot of claims volume. Yeah, that might be one you might not consider versus one that's got a lot of claims volume. And then geographical representation. So those are the things that we're hitting on and asking in the survey.
Got it. And so this year's survey has actually been we've gotten the most responses of any TPA survey we've put out. And so that's good. I know we set an ambitious goal to get 1,000 responses. And so what do we do with the data once we have it?
Yeah, so once we get the data back, we're going to, there's a group that's going to review, analyze it, process it, and then we're going to share it at the conference. You're going to have to help me, Anthony. It's into April. I can't remember the exact dates on it, but it's towards the end of April, and we're going to share that. We're going to share that data at the conference. And then, like I was talking about, really, it's a great way to set the table and have a good conversation with the TPAs to make improvements for them, for the contractors, and at the end of the day, for the policyholders, because those are who are truly, truly impacted by this.
Yeah, so conference is April 28th and 30th, West Palm Beach. Just got an email last week. We opened some new hotel room blocks because restorers, for the first time, typically it's a conference where people are like 2 weeks beforehand. They're like, yeah, all right, I'll go. And then they show up. But a lot of restorers this year have said, no, this is important. It's important for me to be there. And so we've opened up some more hotel room blocks. So if you went to go register, you couldn't find a hotel room, you should be able to get on and secure that hotel room now.
Yeah. And this is a like off subject, or we're kind of talking about it now. Like, I totally suggest, if you haven't gone, go to this. It is one of the best conferences. It is one of my favorite ones to go to. And I mean, it just keeps growing. Like, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. So if you haven't been, or even if you have been before, totally recommend heading down there for that.
Yeah, and if you're going to stick around for Wednesday night, they're doing a roast of Pete Consigli. I don't know if you saw this, but
I have not.
I'm going to show up with my party dress on and a bag of popcorn, and I'm going to be so ready to see who says what about Brother Pete, man. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Pete's braver than I. I don't know if I can handle that.
You can't break that boy, man. He's tough as nails. That's for sure. And then I know previously, one of the things that sticks out in my memory, and I think this might have been when we did the TPA scorecard last time, we had a section at convention following the TPA scorecard where we actually had representatives of each of the programs up on stage. And one of the functions that I love about this, right, is a lot of the times in the world of being a TPA vendor, doesn't appear to be a lot of accountability on the TPAs as an entity, right? There is from the carrier to the TPAs, but not from the contractors to the TPAs. And so one of the intentions that I've seen behind having the TPA scorecard is it is that vehicle of accountability, right? Like you showed up and you marketed your services to us as contractors as being this. How well are you doing in making right on those promises and commitments? And that's where what's been interesting the past two times we've done the TPA scorecard is, I as a restorer in Hawaii, I have my predispositions about how I think the different TPAs are going to act and behave. And I make decisions about which programs we were a part of and which ones we weren't a part of based on my own intelligence, right? But because it's such it's one of the surveys we get a lot of responses on. And so now I'm able to make that decision, not just with my own anecdotal information that's probably region specific and probably just an amalgamation of me and a bunch of other restorers in my marketplace having a few too many beers and talking crap, or, and sometimes we, genuinely we were talking good things like, hey, this program's actually been beneficial for our organization. But you're able to make those decisions not in that local vacuum or not based on the opinions of a few select individuals. You're able to make those decisions from an informed basis, right? Because performance is going to, performance on the TPA side is going to be predicated mostly on the individual you're working with on the claim. And any of us that have been in restoration long enough, like just using the adjuster as an example, like the quality of the adjuster will make or break your experience in resolving that claim on behalf of the homeowner. And so, like within a given carrier, you're going to have some adjusters that are going to frustrate you, and you're going to have some adjusters that are pretty cool and align with the values of your organization and you as an individual to go ahead and take care of that homeowner. And I think, this helps knock the extremes out on both sides and gives you an average or a framework that you can look at and say, hey, you know what? This TPA vendor actually performed well. And while my experience in my marketplace may have been lackluster, I'm watching claim volume go down. I'm looking for creative ways to augment and keep my volume up. Maybe we give this one another shot, right? Yeah. And I think we got to be careful as restorers, right? Because we've created our own divide in we are decidedly either pro TPA or anti TPA, and there seems to be very little gray in there. And in my experience, I've seen it work well for some restorers, right? But those are the ones that have put in the hard yards and have the administrative back end to support it. Yeah. And so looking at the TPA scorecard, you can kind of make some assumptions about what you're going to have to forecast and how you're going to structure your organization so then that way you stand the best chance of success. Because those that are advocates of TPAs tend to be the ones that are kicking everybody's butts on the course, right? Like it's a game. Everybody wants to play and win. And so really the TPA scorecard will help you win if you take the survey responses earnestly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've been, you were talking about like your gut feeling, like, oh, this TPA is great, this one not so great, and going off the gut feeling. But man, sometimes that gut feeling doesn't align with the data. I recently, not related to TPAs, but Anthony, you know a lot about our company's estimating and how we do estimating, and this particular estimator where I'm like, oh, this person doesn't hardly write any construction estimates. They're really focused on MIT, and maybe they're not the strongest construction estimator because they don't
do it. Well, we ran the data. It's like, wait, holy cow, this person's cranking out so many construction estimates. And then you look at the performance and it's very strong. And it's like that gut feeling did not align with the data. So, to your point, I think it really, that this scorecard is very helpful for restorers to make an educated decision. And, it does seem like you're either on the side of third-party administrators are the greatest thing, or it's the worst thing. And really though, the person that's going to decide that is the contractor. Like, you need to decide if it's right for your business or not. And also there's evolution. Like, there might be a point in time where third-party administrators doesn't align with the contractor's business, and over time that might change, or the other way around. So you just have to really understand your company's needs, and that'll help you. And I also think, like, not being stuck in your ways, and realizing like, hey, I need to have an open mind. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, maybe it's every year or every quarter or something. You look, is this the right thing? Does this make sense for us to do, continuing to do business how we're doing business? Do we make a change? So, yeah.
And when we talk about like making informed decisions based on the data, like one of the things that I anchor on through the lens of risk is like getting in a car and driving somewhere. Like, how many times have you jumped in your car and went somewhere and not thought about the risk associated with driving your car on the road, right? Like, every day.
Right. 100%.
And so kind of one of my party tricks is like, somebody will be taught, like, we have friends who do paragliding. And I'm like, okay, is it more or less dangerous than getting in a car? Like, statistically. And statistically, it is far less dangerous than getting in a car. Like, when you talk about, would I die, right? Like, you're better off paragliding to work than you are driving.
I want to see that data. This guy's not paragliding.
I'm just saying. And so, like, that has become, like, I talk about it with my wife. I'm like, look, like, let the kids climb a tree,
Right.
Like, it's no more dangerous than us getting in a car and driving somewhere.
Yeah.
Like actively engaging in alligator wrestling. Yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah. No,
like,
not a smart life decision.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, anything else, like, give me your fondest memory of convention, because you've been a handful of times.
Oh man,
and it can't be, hanging out with Anthony Nelson at the bar. Okay, can't pick that one. I know that's really it.
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's so most, like, pretty much every convention there's some sort of networking going on, but for whatever reason, this is the best networking at this convention. And I think it's because there's a lot of contractors there. So, like, I can relate to a lot of the people that are there. And so that's probably what does it for me, is that networking with those contractors, and, friends and business partners that I've met through it. And that's what really does it for me for this conference.
Yeah. I always joke, like, restoration's a polarizing place. Like, you have to be either hardwired or dysfunctional enough to find success as a restorer. Like, if you don't show up, like, if you don't have some altruistic drive to make the world a better place, usually it just doesn't work out. And so through that lens, I always find that, the RIA convention in particular, everybody's always like, oh, why would, like, somebody might see you on this Facebook Live, right? And they're like, hey, that Paul guy seems pretty cool. And they'll run into you at convention. And there'll always be this, trepidation about the interaction. Like, oh, I'm not, like, why would this guy be willing to give freely of his knowledge, expertise, and experience? And unilaterally, the feedback that we get about convention is restorers like to help other restorers just as much as they like to help people in their marketplace.
Isn't that the coolest thing about this industry is like how, I mean, the vast majority wants to help each other and wants to see success for one another and shares their experiences. I mean, it's the coolest thing. I have friends in other industries. I have friends that are in new construction, for example. So they're a segment of the construction world. We're a segment of it, and it's like it seems like in their world everything's like very closed off. Like they don't want to share things, even if somebody's halfway across the country. But it is such a refreshing thing in this industry to find people that just want to help you and provide their experience and feedback. And it's such a cool thing. And, getting to meet these folks at these, at this convention, for example, like you hear some of their stories and you're like, okay, I'm not in this alone. Like I'm not the only one feeling this. And for me, sometimes it's a reminder is like, things aren't always as bad as they seem, and sometimes they're not as good as they seem either. And I think just being able to talk with these folks kind of helps remind me of that.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's the antiseptic to the pressures of the industry a little bit, right? Like the world gets better when you're fighting in the same trench with somebody else who you like.
Absolutely.
And like otherwise you try and explain what we do to somebody else and they're like, man, that seems really hard. Why the hell would you even say yes to doing that, right? And then but when there's a few thousand people hanging out in a convention hall and you're like, well, if I'm weird, all these other people here are weird too, and you know what, let's just be weird together,
right?
Because everybody's weird.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, if you have not had the opportunity to take the TPA survey, it is live on the restoration industry website, www.restorationindustry.org. It'll be sitting there staring you square in the face. It's the first thing you look at when you go to the website. It takes less than 10 minutes to take it. You do not have to be an RIA member to take it. So it's open to the entire industry. And really what we're trying to do with it is, provide a lens, provide data, information, and accountability to the TPA environment.
Yeah.
So if you haven't taken the opportunity to go take this survey, get online, go do it. And then, you heard it from Paul, like RIA convention's the place to be, man. And if you don't have your, your tickets yet, go get signed up. And if you're a first time attendee, it's stupid cheap. Like if you layer in the affinity member benefits, like just one of them, like a Sunbelt discount or leverage the Xactimate license discount or any one of those functions, you're going to get paid to go to convention this year. And so it's a no-brainer, because there's other folks in the restoration ecosystem who are not first-time members and still continue to drive value, still continue to pay. And that's what we're here for.
Yep, that's correct. I do want to say one thing on the survey. You do have to be currently on a third-party administrator to do the survey. Okay. So it's open to all actively participating TPA contractors. And we did extend the deadline for that March 14th. So please get in there. Like Anthony said, it doesn't take long to do it. It flows really easily, and the more voices we have, the better data we have, and we can make this whole ecosystem that much better. So please get on there and get those surveys filled out.
Cool. And then my last question for you, because I always get to be the guy asking questions on these things. What questions do you have for me?
Oh man, you did this to me, Anthony.
Yeah, I do it to everybody. It's not just you.
uh, oh, geez. Well, let me ask you this. You asked this question to me. What is your it'll, I guess, be two questions. What's your fondest memory of the convention, and why do you continue to go? Because I see you there.
Yeah. Can I have two?
Sure. Let's have two.
So while this was not RIA convention, this was actually the RIA technical, like the fall thing. When Ed Cross lobbed the grenade to Exactware, like live, and not like, look, man, there's a little anarchist inside of me that loves watching callous interactions take place. There's no joke about that, but that's not the main reason why. When I look at the history of where the RIA stood in that moment in time, and then fast forward a handful of years, it was not that long ago, to the relationship we have with Verisk, CoreLogic, some of these industry partners today, and just seeing how we've been able to improve that relationship and improve the experience for contractors through progressive advocacy, right? Like trying to genuinely understand what the other side is trying to accomplish and thread that needle through. So then that way we can make the world a better place for contractors, but be respectful of what Verisk or somebody else is trying to do. Like while that was a fun event to sit there and munch on the popcorn for, knowing the history and the outcome that came from that is definitely one of my fondest memories. And then last year, when we did the Pete Consigli scholarship dinner, like watching the battle over, I think it was Mark Davis, who has Puro Clean, like generously donated a day out on his boat in Miami, and watching like the Surf Pro guys gun for it and just saying, hey, like, okay, we'll raise the amount we'll donate, but we got to be able to fly the Surf Pro flag on your yacht, right? Like these two competing franchise, like behemoths in the industry,
right?
Like totally just dissolving all the competitive nature around it and just having a good time and raising money for a scholarship to benefit the average restorer. Like, yeah, it just tells me I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
I'm amongst a group of people that kind of get it and understand what we're really all about. Awesome. And, like the sincere motivation for why I continue to donate generously of my time to the RIA, and it really came from sitting around the table with a bunch of folks who are much older than me, and their kids were getting into that age where they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, and understanding that most people around the table were actively discouraging their children from getting involved in this industry that you and I know and love. I kind of looked at that and I was like, well, that's crap. Like, I want this to be an industry that is something that I would be proud for my daughters to be a part of. They're 7 and 4 right now. And so that's my goalpost. That's my mountaintop. And if I can accomplish that with the RIA by donating generously and freely of my time, holy crap, like that's what I'm all about. And even if I don't arrive at the mountaintop, I can tell you, what, man, it's going to be a hell of a journey, and I won't have any regrets. I guarantee you I won't have any regrets.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. All right, I'll wrap this down. So if you have not taken the scorecard, taken the survey, go ahead, log on, get your results in, be a part of what helps us change the industry into a better place.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time, Paul. Yeah.
Catch you later.